Alrighty, hello again and welcome to my channel. In this video I'll be showing you how I built this breakdown kids play table for some good friends of mine during the pandemic for their toddler. It came out great and the kiddo loved it, as you'll see in the video later on. So let's get into it. Since this playset will undoubtedly get pretty thrashed, we decided just to use pine for the construction. So I started out by milling down some premium 2x4s to consistent dimensions. The first task is going to be making the chair seats. I could have just glued these up like a cutting board, but thought they would benefit from some dowel joinery to provide a little extra strength and support. So here I'm just marking out the placement for those and drilling out the holes using a dowel jig. For dowels I'm using some 3/8 inch oak round stock cut to length on the miter saw. With all my holes drilled and dowels prepped, it's time for glue up. I'm using a generous amount of Titebond 2 and spreading it evenly along the seams. The dowels are also helping with alignment of my pieces. With my seats in the clamp, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the legs. These pieces are roughly 1 3/8 inch square, but I want them splayed a little bit, so I put a 5-degree angle cut on each end. Utilizing a stop block here, which is just a squeeze clamp attached to my miter saw fence, I'll go ahead and cut all my legs down to a consistent length. With all my legs cut, I'm going to break the edges using a 1/8 inch roundover bit. Man, I really need a router table. Next, I'm going to start working on the table itself. I started by cutting the tabletop components down and then set up the dado stack in my table saw to cut the half laps. I decided on half lap joinery for this project because I thought it would offer the strongest joint and the most structural integrity. Using a simple crosscut sled, I'll start with the deepest point of the half lap joint and then move to the outside, clearing waste as I go. Now, because of how this table was designed, I also need to make a few step down channels in the top for the removable bins and the tabletop itself. To accomplish this, I'm just making some dados by running the pieces through a single blade on the table saw on the side and face to make this channel. And here you can see the step dado profile I'm going for. The bottom channel will hold the lips of the bins, and the channel above will hold the removable top. Now, as with almost every project I design, I ran into some issues translating the joinery from paper to application. I didn't want to have the step dados visible from the ends, so I had to do some plunge cuts. I do this by putting a mark on the table saw where the blade starts and stops. After I have my definitive endpoints of the cut, I just took my time making multiple clearing passes. Now, a little PSA here. This could be considered somewhat of an advanced table saw technique, but I am a carpenter full-time and have confidence in my personal ability. If you don't, that's completely okay. This action could also be performed with a router and a chisel, or just simply a chisel. Okay, with all my clearing passes made, I took the piece to the bench where I used the combination of a Japanese pull saw, knife, and chisels to fine-tune the dado. Alrighty, after some puckering moments with the chisel, we are ready to glue this puppy up. I'm using some F-style clamps to get some pressure on those half laps before setting it in the pipe clamps to dry. Alrighty, with the table frame drying, I'll pull the chair seats out of the clamps and start shaping them. I started by running them through the planer and then over to the crosscut sled to get one straight edge before cutting it down to its final dimension using the fence on my table saw. I'm not going to get too crazy with the shape of these seats, so I'm just going to grab the jigsaw and round off those sharp corners. Then over to the benchtop sander to smooth out that radius. And here you can see a mistake I made. So when I placed the dowels originally, I had these seats a little wider, but after seeing them to their final dimension, they felt like they were a little too bulky. So I decided to trim them down a little bit, obviously forgetting the dowels were closer to the edge than I thought. So here you can see I cut right into the dowels like a dummy. But it's not the end of the world, and we'll just keep moving forward and use a 1/4 inch roundover bit to soften the edges before attaching the leg hardware. I found this knockdown furniture hardware on Amazon, I believe. I did go ahead and mortise out the space to accept the base plate, but apparently didn't get any footage of it, question mark. Boy, my transgressions are really piling up on this one. I do apologize. I'll start mounting the hardware by placing the plate on the seats and marking out the holes. Then using a brad point bit, I'll drill out a space to make room for the threaded rod. After pre-drilling for the mounting screws, I just popped all the plates on. With all the plates in place, I went ahead and drilled out the legs to accept the threaded inserts. Now I did actually go back and use some epoxy on these threaded inserts to help them hold. With the chairs assembled, I decided to add this little exposed dowel accent. Thought they looked a little more fun and kind of like a kid's wooden toy or something. I don't know, I like how they came out, but let me know in the comments what you guys think of this. Alrighty, back to the table. So after a light sanding, I rounded off the corners and decided to repeat that dowel accent on here as well. Obviously it went a little bit bigger, or they're just having fun with it. Also here is where you can see that half lap joint coming together on the end. Hey, fun fact, I couldn't find any dowels this big at my local home center or anything, so I believe this is like an oak broom handle or something. I don't know, seemed to work. And now my favorite part of any exposed tenon joinery process, the flush cutting with a Japanese pole saw. So satisfying. So now that the table is all shaped up, I'm going to hit the edges with a roundover bit and then repeat the mounting hardware process. Again, marking out and pre-drilling all my holes before attaching the plates and checking the depth with a threaded rod. Since I didn't get any footage of this part of the threaded insert process earlier, I'll show it to you here. By just marking a line corner to corner, I can find center and drill it out. And like I said, that glue was not a good idea. I went back and put epoxy in these. I went with a hard wax food safe oil finish on this project since it's for a toddler and they'll most likely have their mouth all over it. After a couple coats of finish, I was ready for final assembly. The only thing left to do was cut down the removable two-sided top. This is a chalkboard on one side and dry erase board on the other side. And with that, this build is complete. I'm pretty happy with how it came out despite my multiple mistakes and on-the-fly design changes. Well, if you're still here this far in the video, I sincerely want to thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.